The Royal British Legion is celebrating their centenary, marking 100 years of supporting our armed forces at home and on the battlefield. Our Wales reporter has been to the opening of the Field of Remembrance at Cardiff Castle. It's a tradition that began in 1928 in the grounds of Westminster Abbey. And this year, there are 6 fields across the UK. Lily Hewitson has more.
For the last century, November has been a month of remembrance, and this year is no exception. As we remember those who have lost their lives in conflict, from the First World War to the present day, the Royal British Legion's Field of Remembrance has been opened at Cardiff Castle.
The charitable remit of the Royal British Legion is to keep remembrance alive. Many of us as individuals would have experienced loss in recent conflicts, First and Second World War, grandfathers, fathers, brothers, and obviously in the more recent conflicts as well. So it's really important us as a nation, we remember that sacrifice and those who have ultimately given the ultimate sacrifice for us and helped shape the world we live in today. When the organisation was founded back in 1921, in the aftermath of what was then known as the Great War, the worst war that the world had ever seen, there was a desperate need for our work and our services. And the fact that we are still here 100 years later, delivering the same services, delivering welfare support, campaigning on behalf of the armed forces, remembering their sacrifice, that sacrifice is going to continue. And actually, we're working with many more younger veterans these days, and they will need our support moving forward. So it's just as important now, remember, as it was back in 1921. My mother lost 2 of her brothers during the Second World War. One was killed in the Far East and the second one was killed in Italy. My father served himself out in the Far East. I, of course, myself served for a number of years and lost friends and comrades, both in accidents and in active conflict. So it's a very personal thing. So I think about those individuals who've given the ultimate sacrifice for us.
I think that, some people confuse this just with the memories of the First World War or the Second World War, where, of course, it's got huge significance. But actually, there's been conflicts in between all of those years, and there are many occasions which I think when you bring the community of Wales and the rest of the UK together to just reflect on the sacrifices that people have made. I think that's important. I think the Royal British Legion do a fantastic job of just getting us all to pause for a moment once a year to respect the families and of people who've made that ultimate sacrifice. So I think it's a really important part of the national calendar. It's not just about the big world wars, which are obviously embedded in people's memories, but every year, almost every month of every year, there are service personnel somewhere in the world, maybe very close to home, as you say, helping with the COVID crisis, doing unbelievable things without much recognition sometimes, often in very dangerous circumstances. So if this is an occasion to just think about that and to reflect on that and to pay them the respect that they deserve, then I think that's a really, it's a fantastic few moments of our time, the sort of thing we should always do.
What do you think about in those 2 minutes of quiet?
It's a really interesting question, that. I mean, I do think about some of my my ancestors, or my grandfathers both fought in one in both World Wars and one in the Second World War only, and you do pause and think about that. But actually, it's I thought a lot about the last 18 months and just what the nation has been through, what individuals have been through.
Yes, it is an important time of year, I think, for the armed forces especially, but also I think for the British public, who are very supportive of their armed forces. And I think all the people that have served and people that have been lost over many, many years now, I mean, we've all either got family connections or community connections, and these are all still very important to people, and it is an important time of year to be able to do that. The British Legion have, been supporting the armed forces for 100 years, making sure that we are well supported. So I'm sure that will continue, and I'm sure remembrance in its form, and maybe it will change over many years. I think it's changed a little bit down the years, will continue, but I still think it's something quite important to British people. It's something that makes us connect with people that have served before, and so I'm sure it will continue in one form or another. So, I mean, this year we've been doing a lot of commemoration around the Battle of Britain and some of the people from Wales who served, and I was involved in a lot of that sort of historical research with some of our colleagues. So I was actually thinking a little bit about them in particular, but also some colleagues I have served with and some who have lost their lives in recent years as well.